everybody. Welcome to In This Corner, the podcast. A buck 61. Boxing's biggest names, boxing's biggest stories, boxing's biggest fights. We also do greatest memories and moments. We go through it all with boxing writer, author, CompuBox counter, historian extraordinaire, Lee Groves. How you doing, Lee?
Doing well. It's been a minute since we've been here, right?
Yeah, but we've still been busy doing a lot of stuff and stuff that we will recount and recap, such as the International Boxing Hall of Fame 2025, another great experience in Canastota. We will go through that towards the tail end of the show. And also, that'll lead us into our memories and moments where 45 years ago, I think yesterday,
Yes.
was the anniversary of one whale of a pure sixer that went 15 rounds with two of the greatest fighters of all time, Manos de Piedra, Roberto Duran, and the great Sugar Ray Leonard, the battle in Montreal. We'll talk about that. But before we get to that, we'll have a special guest. And his name is Vito Mielnicki Jr. And I guess I'm going to get to know him not only here today, but Saturday up close and personal, as Top Rank Boxing will be on ESPN-plus. You know a little bit more about him than I do, and I know you're ready to ask him some questions. An interesting young man.
Very interesting young man. He's a guy who turned pro at 17 years old. He was still in high school at the time.
Jeez.
So we're going to talk about his beginnings. And at 22, he's a young veteran already. So,
Yeah.
he's going to be fighting on the card. You're going to be calling his fight. And we're going to talk all about it in the next segment.
And, before we get to young Vito, let's do some recounting and recapping and previewing. Tell us what went on. Pretty busy weekend in boxing, some interesting stuff. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, last Saturday, Richardson Hitchens successfully defended his IBF 140-pound title for the first time by stopping former unified lightweight champion George Kambosos Jr. in round 8 before his home fans in New York City. Hitchens controlled the fight with a smart long-range boxing, and then he ended the fight with a brutal body shot. After the fight, Kambosos hinted at retirement while Hitchens called out WBO champion fellow New Yorker Teofimo Lopez, as well as Devin Haney. What did you think of Hitchens' performance, and where do you see him going from here?
I like him a lot. Fundamentally sound, good jab. You know what I think about the jab, the most important punch in boxing. And overstated if you don't use it, but he did. And as for Kambosos, he is there's things called a one-hit wonder, like I think of Frida Payne and Band of Gold or something in music. But with him, I think he's sort of a 2 or 3 hit wonder in boxing. I really think, Lee, that he's made the most of his career. We've seen when he really steps up, for the most part, except for a couple of occasions, he can't get it done against the greats, like the Lomachenko's or even a youngster like Hitchens. I think he should call it a day. And now everybody knows he is so susceptible to the body. I know the feeling, George. And once you have that situation, it's just a path downward. I think he's accomplished so much. I think at his core, he's a good dude, I think. And so I think he should just call it a day and sail away. And as for Hitchens, I think, man, the sky's the limit for that young man if he stays on the straight and narrow and stays busy and keeps improving.
One statistical nugget that came from that fight was that he is one of the very few fighters in CompuBox history to land 50% or more of total punches, jabs, and power shots. And doing it in a world title fight is even more rare. Floyd has done it, a couple of times during his career, the 50-50-50 triple. There have been a couple of other fighters who have done it. So Hitchens was really, really on point against a pretty good guy in George Kambosos. So that just adds to the impressiveness of his performance. And speaking of impressive performances, Andy Cruz in the co-main event. He's a two-time Olympic gold medalist and the last guy to beat Keyshawn Davis. He did that in the Olympic final. He stopped Japan's Hironori Mishiro in round 5 to win his IBF lightweight title eliminator, as well as the right to challenge newly elevated champion Raymond Murataya. Um, Cruz has successfully merged the tenets of the Cuban boxing school, very highly technical boxing, with the Philadelphia power game, and the results have been nothing short of spectacular. Cruz has had only 6 professional fights, but it appears he's ready to fight the very best. What do you think of Andy Cruz?
You know, to be quite honest with you, I didn't pay much attention to the fight. Just concerned about, with the main event and paying attention to the next fight we're going to talk about with Nonito Donaire. I leave that to guys like you, and I pick and choose. That's why I'm lucky to have you.
Well, he's already had some very good experiences in his brief pro career. I think it was against Antonio Moran. He was actually stunned a little bit, and he had to fight his way out of trouble. He did that very successfully. He seems to have everything. He was really touted coming into the pros, and he's really, like Lomachenko. He has lived up to the hype, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's next for Andy Cruz. And shifting to someone else who has fought the best for many years, 42-year-old future Hall of Famer Nonito Donaire returned to the ring for the first time in nearly 2 years, and he did so off back-to-back losses. And yet, he won the WBA secondary bantamweight title by scoring a ninth-round technical decision against Chilean Andres Campos in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Donaire won every round, nearly every round, and he looked really sharp given his age and his long layoff. But there was an accidental butt that opened a cut over Donaire's right eyebrow, and because the Filipino Flash was ahead on all scorecards, as he should have been, he won this fight. And with the win, he's likely going to fight the winner of the July 30th fight between Antonio Vargas, the full WBA bantamweight champion, and Daigo Higa, the former WBC flyweight champion. Now, when we discussed this fight on the phone, I told you that the Campos fight was a winnable one for Nonito despite everything. And guess what? He won. You and Nonito are pretty close. And what do you think about his performance, about his decision to keep fighting on, and so on and so forth?
Well, when we spoke about this fight, I told you I thought he would win. Probably, it's the right kind of opponent. It's a guy who didn't have much power. And he's not a great fighter, a good fighter. So it was one of those where had I been with Nonito, I still would have said don't fight for the obvious reasons, 42 years old and things like CTE down the road and all of those. But I would have said this is one that I think you can win. So if you can justify it, then do it. The good is that he won, as we thought he would. The bad is that he will continue. And with that comes the same concerns I have. He's a guy that's been fighting a long time, and he's a one hell of a fighter. He is a Hall of Famer, first ballot, and then some. And you know how I feel. The audience knows how I feel. There's something called LAB, Life After Boxing. And, those who might say, well, it's only one more fight or he's fighting a little guy. It only takes one more fight.
Yeah.
This is why we always say you don't play boxing. So I'm real happy for Nonito. I'm very proud of Nonito. But again, I think he should have already sailed off into the sunset. But he certainly has the capabilities, obviously, to beat these kind of guys. And that just shows how damn good he was and still has some of those abilities.
He really looked good, considering everything that he came, the baggage that he came into the fight with, the age, the inactivity, the back-to-back losses. He looked sharp. He looked in shape. His hands were fast. His feet were pretty good. He won every round. So
It's the
he's
stuff you
good.
don't see, though, Lee. It's the stuff you don't see that are the problems with these guys
Yeah,
when they get that age. You're pointing out what, oh, he looks good, he looks fast, he looks quick, he looks, yeah. But he's
is
also,
that
and
guy.
the good thing was you told me, because I watched some highlights, you said he didn't get hit that much, and that's an important thing. But again, I'm not going to get off of, I've been in this game too long to see that. And, I'm very honest about it, but he did what we thought he would do. And now we'll see what he does, which I think he'll continue.
Yeah, he definitely will continue, especially with a title fight next up. And then finally, another future Hall of Famer successfully returned to the ring last Saturday in Mexico as Juan Francisco Estrada won a 10-round unanimous decision over Kareem Arce, who happens to be the nephew of four-division world champion Jorge Arce. Estrada fought for the first time in nearly a year, and he was competing at 118 for the first time. But against Arce, he looked terrific. He scored three knockdowns, including two in the final round, and he won by near shutout margins. But he's in the same place that Nonito is right now. He's of an advanced age. He has a lot of mileage in the tank. He looked good against this level of opponent, but he set the stage for fighting against a higher level opponent next time, and that's
Problem.
when we really see what's left.
Yeah. But by the way, on Jorge Arce, for division, do you think he's a guy that will someday be in the International Boxing Hall of Fame?
Possibly, he has been on. I think he has been on the ballot for a number of years. Really, it has come down to who is the voters' top five of the 40 some names
Right.
on the list, and Jorge has been on the list for a
Well,
while,
what
and
about you? What do you think?
he definitely has a case.
Yeah.
He's won some big fights. He's lost some big fights. He has been at world level for more than a decade. You can definitely make a case for him, but I don't know if he will make enough top fives to get elected. That's
And,
all I can really say about
and
that.
as for some previews,
Yeah, over on DAZN, Galal Yafai will defend his interim WBC flyweight title against Francisco Rodriguez Jr. Yafai is the younger brother of former 115-pound titleist Khalid Yafai. He knocked out former IBF flyweight champion Sonny Edwards in his most recent fight to win his current belt. He's currently 9-0 with seven knockouts. And here he will defend against a former unified minimum weight champion who is 39-6-1 with 27 knockouts. Rodriguez is aggressive and he likes to push a hard pace, but I like Yafai's skill and youth. I think he's going to win on points. And then the final card we're going to be previewing will emanate from Newark, New Jersey. It will be streamed on ESPN-plus, and we're going to see James Smitty Smith back in the saddle. So tell us about what your role is going to be, what the fight card's going to be, and so on and so forth.
well, I hate the overused phrase stacked fight card, but it really is. I think there's like 11 fights, and the main event will feature the young man that we're going to interview in just a few moments, Vito Mielnicki Jr. You touched on him a little bit. The most difficult thing are going to be all of these names. Thank God I had you. Like, for example, Vito's opponent is unbeaten Polishman
Kamil Gradzalik. Kamil
Grodzalik.
Gradzalik. Yeah.
I was going to say Grodzalik. Grodzalik. He's unbeaten. I'm looking forward to it. I think this will be his first fight out of Poland and going right to the backyard of Mielnicki, who's coming off a draw with Connor Coyle. I thought, by the way, Mielnicki Jr. won that fight with Connor Coyle, and I've called a lot of Connor's fight. I mean, it was a good, close, competitive fight, but I just thought clearly and I think you had Mielnicki winning by even a wider margin than I did, I think.
Yeah, I had it 97-93. I thought Vito was a clear winner.
I haven't met with the production staff. I know Christina Poncher's going to be there. And I don't know the rest of the group I'm going to be working with actually as of right at this moment, but it'll be a lot of fun. I'm just excited because I know my main role will be doing the interviews back in the locker rooms and jumping up in the ring, and that's kind of fun for me at this point because it's kind of the polar opposite of what I typically do, which is fortunate enough to sit down and interview the greatest fighters of all time, like I've done on In This Corner for 20 some odd years. And now with the podcast, what we do, and even having Mielnicki Jr. on right now is new for us, because we typically have the world champions on. So for me, it's just going to be an attitude of gratitude about boxing and try to tell their stories and set up their fights as best we can. And at the same time, I'll also find out how they feel after the fights. Sure, I'll be doing a lot of post-fight interviews, so I'll get my work in, and it'll be a lot of fun. Heading to Newark, New Jersey. We're taping on Tuesday. I head there in a couple of days. Also looking forward to working with Top Rank and ESPN-plus and Vito Mielnicki Sr., who is the father of Vito Mielnicki Jr., and I'm sure we'll talk to him about that, and we'll do all of that right after you see this. We'll be back.
I got two options. Option one, I can accept defeat. Option two, I can get up. I can get tougher. I can get faster. I can get stronger. And then I go get mine. I made my choice. Have you made yours?
Back on In This Corner, the podcast. Buck 61, boxing's biggest names, boxing's biggest stories, boxing's biggest fights, greatest memories and moments. A little bit later on in the show, we'll talk about the Brawl for it all in Montreal 45 years later. My pals Manos de Piedra, Roberto Duran, and Sugar Ray Leonard went at it. But right now, we go to our special guest, and I'll see him up close and personal, and so will you folks on Saturday when he takes on Kamil Gardzalik. I will figure that damn name out by the time I get there, the unbeaten Polishman. But our guest is Vito Mielnicki Jr., from Jersey with Love. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be on the show with you guys, and I'm excited to meet you this weekend too.
Yeah, and I will be there, and I look forward. I look forward to it. Before we get to this fight and other things, and I flip it to Lee, who's prepared some stats and some questions. For those who don't know you, I followed your career, and we've seen you. We've seen you in action before on television, but. Talk a little bit about your upbringing in Jersey, your family, and how you actually got into boxing. Maybe you were predestined for boxing with your dad being Vito Mielnicki Sr., the promoter. Take us through that, if you will.
Yeah, so my upbringing as a kid was I come from a really nice family. I'm from a suburb in New Jersey in Essex County. Always had to earn everything I got. My parents always, they raised us right. Never struggled in ways of not like that people struggle like out there, like not being able to eat, not having food. But I have a great family. I come from a father and a mother who worked their behind off to get everything that we needed as a family. My two sisters and my younger brother. And man, I'm from Roseland, New Jersey, a small town, like I said, in Essex County. I played football growing up.
What
Very
position?
athletic,
What position did you play?
running back and safety.
Okay.
And and then I was 7 years old, and my father and I were sitting on the couch in the back room in the house, and we're just flipping through the channels, and I think there was a replay of Shane Mosley and Floyd Mayweather on, and my father and my uncle had background in wrestling, but that's about it. Nobody had boxing in their background in my family. And basically I just told my father, I was like, I want to try that. And he was like, you want to do what? I was like, I want to try that. I was 7 years old at the time. And he had brought me to the gym. He didn't bring me to like a gym up here in like a really nice area. He brought me to the gym in Newark, Jamar Carter. in a basement of an abandoned church, actually, and
Old
just
school. That's
surrounded
called old school.
old school down Newark, and it was like a whole different like atmosphere for me as a kid. I grew up like in a nice area up here, and for me to be down there, basically just got out of that bubble wrap. You know what I mean? Of being in the suburbs my whole life, and I mean, was down there, whole different feeling, vibe. Looks different than where I'm from, so it was like a whole different vibe. And then first few days I hated it, but my father signed me up for 30 days. And he said, you're gonna finish these 30 days. After the first few days, I was like, I'm not going back there. I'm done. I don't want to do this. He's like, no, you're gonna finish these 30 days. I paid for the 30 days. And day like 5 came around, day 6, day 7, and like I really didn't want to leave the gym. I just was excited to go there after school. Like I was excited to go to the gym and be around the atmosphere of the gym, be around all the guys at the gym. And this is at 7 years old. And then that was really it. That was the start of my journey.
And you had a really good amateur career. Talk about your amateur career and your coaches and where you built your foundation that has led you to 21-1 with 12 KOs. Talk a little bit about your amateur career.
Yeah, I have a very deep amateur background. I was on the junior Olympic team at the USA Olympic Training Center. I was 4-time junior Golden Glove champion. Ringside, I won. Silver gloves, I won. So I had a really deep background. I think I was like in all probably like 150 something and 20 something as an amateur, close to 200 fights. Had a deep amateur background. Coach Wadley Moses, Shakur's grandfather, was my trainer from when I was like 8 years old till I was about 15. And then he started moving around with Shakur a lot. And then had to move on from Coach Wadley, but it's all love with Wadley too. And then trained with some guys around here. And then once I turned pro, I've been around a lot of great coaches as a professional already. Joe Goosen, Ronnie Shields, Chino Rivas. I've been learning so much in these past few years of my career, and just since I'm a kid, I've grown so much.
Yeah. As I flip to Lee Groves.
Well, you may or may not know this. I'm the chief researcher at CompuBox,
Yeah,
and
he was saying that. Yeah.
we at CompuBox have numbers for 16 of your 22 fights, and several things stand out to me. Actually, four. First, you have a very active jab.
Yep.
In fact, you throw more jabs per round, 27, than you do power shots, 25. And you land 6 jabs per round, which is above the middleweight average of 4.4. So you got a very effective jab.
And you might need to tell my dad that he tells me I got to throw the jab more. So you might have to tell him that. You might have to
There
tell him
you
these
go.
stats.
The second thing, you're pretty tall for the weight class, 6 feet tall, middleweight,
Yeah.
but you're also a very good body puncher. And here's the
Mhm.
proof. 43% of your total connects have been to the body, which is well above the 29% CompuBox average.
Wow.
The third, you're very accurate. You land 32% of your total punches and 43% of your power shots. Both of those are above the middleweight averages.
Okay.
And finally, your defensive numbers are better than average. Only 21% of the total punches get through and 29% of the power shots. So you're a good all-round fighter, not
Yeah.
only aesthetically, but statistically. My first question to you is that you turned pro at 17. I think if I have this right, it was 3 months after your junior prom and less than 2 months before starting your senior year in high school.
Yes.
Why did you choose to begin your pro career so young? And describe the dynamic between you and your high school classmates. Were you a big man on campus or something like that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for those numbers. That's so I never knew all those numbers before. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
yeah, so I did turn pro 3 months after my junior prom, and yeah, right before the start of my senior year. And what turned me pro is so my last fight in the amateurs was in Spain.
Mhm.
That April prior to me making my debut. And then I fought a kid from Spain in Spain and dominated this kid from corner to corner, post to post, and didn't get my hand raised in the amateurs. And obviously, boxing is a very political sport. It's an opinionated sport. And I just told my father, I was like, I don't want to fight any more amateur fights. Like, I've been doing this for too long, like training my butt off every day and then going out there and not getting my hand raised when I'm supposed to. I'm not doing it. So, and I was actually going to go play senior year football. I was going to go play my senior year in football. Like I told you guys, I played football growing up, and that was like football still to this day is like my favorite sport. And basically, I didn't play any high school sports. I dedicated everything to boxing from like seventh or eighth grade on. And then throughout high school, just boxed. And then senior year came around. I said to my father after that fight in Spain, I said, I want to play football senior year. And he was like, okay, whatever. So go out. You obviously got to change your training up. Like, you're slim now. You got to put on some weight. You got to bulk up a little bit. And so I started training, lifting weights. Not like everybody knows boxing training and boxing shape is way different than any other sport shape. It's a whole different animal to deal with. So I was in very good football shape, running routes, learning the playbook, ready to go out, take the starting running back job my first year back. And then I'd say probably the end of May rolled around, start of June, and my father was like, I got an idea. And anybody who knows my father, he thinks outside the box a lot and just never put anything past him. He's like, I got an idea. Top Rank's throwing a show at the Prudential Center. Shakur Stevenson is fighting in a world title fight. What would you do if you're able to turn pro and make your debut on that card?
Mm.
So me at the time, I'm bulked up. I'm like 180 something, like ready to go play high school, senior year football, excited. I'm in the driveway and I'm like, he calls me and tells me this. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm not even like the fight is in 6 weeks. Like, this is 6 weeks away from the fight. So I'm like, are you crazy? Like, we worked my whole life for a debut to, be prepared, be ready, and be at the best of my game. Like, you're gonna just put me in there after not being in the gym for 2 months, like, and we're gonna make my debut. And he's like, just think about it, just think about it. So I went inside, thought about it. And I was like, the upside of this is crazy. Like, I know I'll sell a lot of tickets. I think we sold like 2,500 like tickets my pro debut or something like that. Some close to like 2,000 tickets, and put
Well,
everybody in white
what about the football coach and your teammates? How did it sit with them?
So they already knew I was a great athlete. Obviously, growing up playing park football and in high school and everything, like, and obviously when I was a kid, like how much I played, everybody knew I was a good athlete and that I would have potentially probably went out there and took over, but they weren't too happy about that. But I went inside, thought about the pro debut, and ultimately made my decision that, yeah, maybe this is a blessing in disguise that we got this opportunity to turn pro at 17, be the first professional to turn pro at 17 in New Jersey, and got the go ahead by Commissioner Larry Hazard to be able to do that. And I'm extremely blessed for him. He gave me the thumbs up and the green light for that. So that's ultimately how my pro debut came about. And then going fast forward to the pro debut, it was electric. Everybody in white t-shirts in there. And almost like after I fought, like everybody emptied out of the arena. Like everybody after my fight, like left the fight. And then I had a first round knockout, made Sports Center top 10, and ultimately like just jump started my career. Had offers from all the top promoters coming our way because we didn't sign any deal at that time. And we ultimately made the decision to move forward and sign with Al Heyman.
Wow. Wow. Speaking of 17-year-olds, Wilfred Benitez was a world champion at 17.
At 17, yep.
And in doing so, he beat a Hall of Fame legend in Antonio Cervantes. So as a guy who turned pro at 17 years old, could you imagine how gifted Wilfred Benitez had to be in order to do that?
Insane. That's insane. I was so underdeveloped, so not even as a fighter, like as a fighter as well, but so underdeveloped as a man, as a person. Like, the thought process of going into the ring that I take now is way different than the thought process I had back when I was 17. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so the fact that he won a world title and beat another legend at 17 years old, that just is it's insane and to think about, and just is a testament to his greatness.
During the development process as a professional, I'm sure you had the opportunity to spar with many people. Who are some of the people that you've sparred, and who are the guys that you learned from the most?
Yeah, I've sparred with Jamal Charlo, Sean Porter, Shakur. Probably so many. There's so many more I can't even name off the top of my head. But there's so many world champs I've sparred with, and probably the most I've like elevated my game was in my first camp with Ronnie Shields. Was the camp that I sparred Jamal Charlo, probably 120 rounds. It was
Wow.
just me and him in camp. We were doing 10 rounds straight, 8 rounds straight. Um, Surrounded by all these superstars in the gym, like Ocho Cinco was there, like
Oh my
basketball
gosh.
players, all these different rappers. And to be able to, it was like every day was like a fight day because it was like I was performing in front of so many people in the gym. First of all, the cameras, like it almost felt like a fight day every time I was sparring. So, and just to be in the gym with Jamal and to be doing that many rounds with a world champion, it was truly a blessing. And I'd say the most I learned was with him, Sean Porter. Um, those two I learned a lot from for sure.
What did they
Def-
teach you?
just honestly, poise, like poise and being sticking to your game plan. Like another world champion that I sparred when I think I was 17 at the time, 18, was Julian Williams when he was undisputed. And man, like being underdeveloped, like we were talking about as a 17-year-old, like he put like this I went down to his gym at in Philly, Bones Adams gyms, and he just put this mental pressure on me at like that age, at 17, like was just constantly like in front of me, like just constantly like making me think. And I saw that with all the world champs that I was in there with, they always are making their opponents think, like, and they're always making you aware that they're in front of you, and they're not giving you like any mental break of like any leeway to rest. You know what I mean? Like even if they're not punching, they're still like in front of you, like making certain subtle movements and of that nature. So I
Mhm.
learned a lot throughout the years with all these world champs.
Tremendous. Now, your only loss to date was an 8 round majority decision against James Martin, who happens to be the son of former light heavyweight title challenger Jerry the Bull Martin. What are your memories about that match, and what lessons did you learn from that fight?
Just preparation. I was probably one of the most busiest fighters throughout the bubble of COVID years. I fought like 5 times, like like I was so busy where guys weren't fighting in years. Like I was fighting so many times, and that fight just taught me just preparation. I got to always be prepared to my fullest. Maybe took my foot off the gas after my fight against Noe Lopez. That was my fight prior to James Martin, and wasn't in the gym, didn't keep my weight where it was supposed to be. We just wasn't. Once we got the call, that fight was originally supposed to be in May versus James Martin. And then we got the call that a fight had fell out on the Fox card, and they told us you'll be on the Fox portion, the main portion. And me being inexperienced a little bit, I jumped all over that opportunity, even knowing that I wasn't fully prepared at that point.
You know,
Didn't
and you touch on something though, and it makes me think. It's funny, Lee, how he's talking about going from boxing to football. I went from football being too small to go any further than college, and then the boxing and having to shift that whole training process. But what I want to talk about with you is the mental side. You know, the focus. You say you might have taken your foot off the pedal a little bit, but also mentally, young guy, good looking guy, well known in your town. How difficult is it, especially with freaking social media and everything, to stay focused? Because, in my opinion, and I've been around this game all the way back to Muhammad Ali, I think the mental side is every bit, if not more important than the physical side. How do you maintain your focus?
definitely. I've talked to many world champs going back to what we were saying. They just all most of them say this game is 90% mental. Like 90% mental. So I was raised by my mother always told me to be just always stay humble, always stay kind. My father always just taught me to just stay true to myself, you know what I mean? My mother and father. So that's just how I was always raised. And
So
at
you're
that point,
grounded. You're grounded.
grounded,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm where my 2 feet are.
Yeah.
That's how I try to live. And that was one of the fights where at that point, like maybe I did get a little like believe in the hype. Like, you know what I mean? I believe the hype a little bit. You start to fall into that trap. And I feel like that's at that point in my career where I did fall into that little trap a little bit, which is it's unacceptable, but it's acceptable because I was young, I'm learning. Unfortunately, some guys get to make their mistakes off TV on smaller cards, but fortunately and unfortunately, I was on Fox, Channel 5, worldwide, and in front of the world. I had to make my mistakes in front of the world. So
Yeah.
that's
Few more questions with Vito Mielnicki Jr. He takes on Kamil Gardzalik on Saturday at the Prudential Center. I will be in town. It's really a stacked. I hate that word, but it is a stacked
yeah.
fight card on
One thing
Saturday.
I'll say, I think you got to get rid of that Dolphins flag and put a Jets flag in there.
Well, let me.
Ooh.
You don't. I'll tell you the reason why, and we'll talk about it when I meet you. I was a ball boy for the
Oh,
1972
you were? Wow.
Miami Dolphins,
Wow.
football's only perfect team.
Yep, yep,
Two of
yep,
those
yep.
victories, baby, were over the New York Jets. As Lee, take this over, Lee, before I have to go
Yeah,
Miami Dolphins on him,
don't
baby.
get me started. Don't get me started.
Well, let's talk about Saturday. You're going to be fighting Gardzalik on Saturday, the day that the show is going to be airing. And as the main event fighter, not only are you preparing for battle, you're also doing shows like this, and you're selling tickets. And
Yeah.
how difficult is it for you to budget your time and marshal your energies during fight week?
Definitely. I just came from my elementary school today. Went to go talk to the sixth graders that are moving up to seventh grade, seventh and eighth grade. Yesterday, I had a pep rally at my hometown turf field. They threw a little pep rally in there, giving away some tickets to the town. Um, just this is fun to me. You know what I mean? Like this is a blessing to be able to just do the things I'm doing that I've dreamt about as a kid, to be able to inspire the next generation. Obviously, got to stay focused, keep the main thing always, and make sure I'm fully locked in on Saturday night. But honestly, this makes fight week go by pretty fast for me. Doesn't make me think about the weight. Doesn't make me. I'm just enjoying the moment, living in the moment, and just being where my 2 feet are at.
How's the weight making going?
Great. My weight's going great. My nutritionist, everything's going perfect. I'm basically almost on weight already, so there's no struggle. I'm drinking a gallon of water. I feel great. I'm super excited. I had a great training camp, and for the first time in a few fights, I could say like this is the like I know a lot of fighters say it. It's cliche, like oh, I had the best training camp of my life. I feel great, but truly, this is like I've never really said that, but this is probably one of the best training camps I've had for my nutrition, for my boxing, for my strength and conditioning, just everything all together. So I'm just extremely excited for Saturday night.
So what do you know about your opponent?
Yeah, he's got a very deep amateur background, dating back to probably like 14, 15 years ago. I might not have even been boxing at that time. You know, he's been around in Poland, had a deep amateur background over there. Didn't fight many times outside of Poland, but has fought some guys, Cuban guys, just some good opponents. So passed all the tests. Not a doesn't hasn't have knockout power on paper, but um, everybody could crack in there with those gloves on. Fights likes to throw punches, a lot of punches if he needs to. Can box, can go to the inside. He's an all around really good fighter. And at this level of my career, at this point in my career, fighting for I think there's 3 titles on the line that rank me across the board. I mean, these are the kind of tests that I have to pass. So I'm super excited for the opportunity to be in the ring with him.
Yeah, you're ranked 10th by the WBO. You're 21st in the WBC. Should you win, and I know that fighters don't like to look forward when there's a fight on the table, but should you win, what's the plan going forward?
We'll look at that afterwards. I'll just handle business Saturday night and then see where the cards fall and everything falls, and then we'll go from there.
All right. And how do you feel that a future Hall of Famer like James Smitty Smith is going to be calling your fight?
Man, it's a blessing. Just my whole journey so far. I'm just so blessed to be where I'm at and have the kind of people I have around me, be surrounded by legends. I'm signed with two of the greatest, Al Heyman, a Harvard graduate, Bob Arum, a Harvard graduate, Al Heyman, my advisor, Bob Arum, my promoter, Hall of Fame trainer, Ronnie Shields. I'm just guys like Smitty calling my fight. This is everything I dreamt about as a kid and more. And I'm just extremely
Geez, he's
blessed to
making
be in a
me feel
position.
old, Lee. I feel all of my 66 years, but I look
No,
good for
you do, you do,
66,
you
baby.
do.
Listen, he's drinking that water. We're going to let him get out of here. Of
Yeah.
course, Vito Mielnicki Jr., he takes on Camille Gardzalik on Saturday. Can't wait to be there. Looking forward. Also, can't wait to really get a chance to chat with your dad. If they
Definitely.
do make some more mafia movies, though, I don't know. Your dad, he is Godfather extraordinaire type of type of a dude, man.
Oh boy, oh
My friend
boy.
Gordon Hall loves him too.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, Gordon's the best too.
yeah, your
Gordon's
father is well liked, and it's one final thing. We were going to touch on it. That relationship. Sometimes fathers and sons don't work so well, whether the father's, training the fighter or whatever. In your case, your dad's a promoter. Why has the dynamic worked so well between you and Pops?
Yeah, obviously you're gonna have your arguments, you're gonna have your, I mean, disagreements. That's just gonna come with it. But at the end of the day, he's my father, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
first, before everything, he's my father. Put boxing aside. So he's the one who got me started on this journey. He's the person I'm gonna finish this journey with. And I'm just extremely blessed to have him on this journey with me. So to have him side by side with me this whole way, it's man, it's just truly a blessing.
Yeah, and it'll be a blessing. I look forward to seeing you in just a few days. I'm going to bring Vito Jr. a Miami Dolphin banner
No,
for
don't
him to
bring it
hang up
here.
there in his
Don't bring it
background.
here. Don't bring it here.
Listen,
Uh-oh.
listen, get your rest, and I'll see you in a few days. Look forward to Saturday night. Thanks for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
so much. Thank you.
Back in this corner of the podcast, Buck 61, man. Gotta love it. You gotta root for Vito Mielnicki Jr. with a great attitude like that, a pleasant young man. I forgot to ask him because I think his nickname is White Magic, and I forgot to ask him why they call him that. I don't know if that had anything to do. I wonder if he got that name in football before even boxing. Not sure. Sounds
It's
like a name
possible.
for a running back too. A white running back anyway.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Hall of Fame 2025. We just got back. I can't even remember now how long we've been back. The week just goes so rapidly. I typically arrive on Monday morning and I acclimate myself to Canastota the first few days and then start, with Jeff Brophy and Ed Brophy. I start the deep preparation and then get into it. You usually come in a with your own, role, but it
Mhm.
was different this time. So talk about that.
Very much so. There have been many years that I've gone to the Hall of Fame where I have professional responsibilities, whether it be writing about my experiences for Ring Magazine, RingTV.com as the traveling man. Sometimes I even worked CompuBox shows for ESPN and flew in from Syracuse to where I needed to go and then fly back and enjoy the rest of the weekend. But this year is different. I work pretty much every day of the year, and I wanted to use this time to just relax and take everything in. I didn't volunteer to write anything, and I wasn't asked to write anything. So I just came as a fan. And of course, I did the ringside lecture with Mickey Ward,
That
which
was great.
happened to get. I didn't know this. You sent this to me that the front page of the Oneida paper had a picture of me on stage with Mickey Ward, and that
I
was
do
you
about
never know.
27 lectures. Lee Groves comes in to be the cleanup hitter for me on Saturday, so I could get ready to do the banquet. He does one, and he's the star. A star is born. It's a great picture, and Mickey really enjoyed it, and so did the crowd. You did a great job, from what I heard.
Well, I learned from the best, I must say. And, you know, some of the memories that I have of the weekend on Wednesday, quiet before the storm, I stopped by the gift shop and I visited the original CompuBox computer, which is located in the corner right beside the original Madison Square Garden ring. And then you invited me to a private event at the Turning Stone, in which I got to talk to some of the inductees, such as Vinny Paz and Ross Greenberg, Michael Nunn, Randy Gordon. On Thursday, it was the bowling night that I have with my buddies. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. I've suggested to the Hall of Fame that maybe, since boxers bowl as well, make it sort of an event that people can buy tickets for and have fun on the lanes. And then, of course, the highlight of it all was the induction weekend itself, and it was moved to a larger room because the attendance was larger than expected. They moved it to a bigger room. And some of the most memorable moments for me was, Randy Gordon's speech, in which he described his extraordinary comeback from a childhood accident. Ross Greenberg challenging the mainstream media in the United States to bring boxing back to its former prominence in the form of storytelling. Vinny Paz's profane stream of consciousness, and Kat Davis saying that she wanted to have her Hall of Fame ring resized for the middle finger because she wanted to flip the bird to all of the white men who wanted to stop her from fighting. There were many, many more, but time constraints, prevent me from talking about it even more. But you are the host of the event, and what are the things that stood out to you hosting the event and all the fighters you got to meet and talk to, and so on and so forth?
At the end of the day, for me, this one will be about Manny Pacquiao, because I was lucky enough, blessed enough to have Manny let me into his inner circle in the embryonic stages of his career when he came to the United States. He would train at the Dean Chance's IBA gym, which was really owned by the late Tony Rila, who was a dear friend of mine. I used to do so many of my interviews and in-rings there. I think about the classic with Floyd Mayweather, Mike McCallum, who we just lost, Winky Wright, Christy Martin, and Manny Pacquiao. We did the show and the in-ring there. And Manny and I were looking at videos of him and I sitting down speaking and also in the ring, and he had asked me about Tony, and I had to break the news. He didn't know Tony had passed away, but I remember I was talking to him. Ed Brophy was right in between us, and I said, "You remember when you told me that this is what you wanted, this is what you were fighting for, was to be not just a champion, but an all-time great, and here you are." And there he was. So that is really the thing that would stand out. But I did an interview with Ray Mercer, and he got a little emotional talking about Kenny Adams, who was his boxing coach and trainer, the late, great Kenny Adams, who recently passed away as well. And then having Jim Lampley on right before Ross Greenberg, you had a really powerful HBO presence there. And that was interesting, talking about boxing past and where it's at now and where it perhaps needs to go amidst everything going on with Turk Al-Sheikh and Riyadh season and boxing today on television, which is in kind of a troubled spot. I mean, we don't even know what the future of ESPN boxing in Top Rank, right? We don't even really know. The show I'm doing might be one of the final ones, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then having the referees on and honoring Kenny Bayless, who's there every year. Kenny's a friend of mine in the show. But then the judges, we interviewed judges. And it was nice getting some of the top-notch, top-tier judges to talk about and answer questions from the fans about judging. And that was their transparency was really cool, and I enjoyed that. So all in all, I thought it was a great week and weekend. The 2025 International Boxing Hall of Fame, and they're furthering things with technology, with streaming, and I saw some of the Banquet of Champions was streamed, and the entire induction ceremony was streamed. So that was great, and everything worked out. Sydney Sweeney showed up in between doing bathwater things for soap. I guess she she made it there and was part of the parade. And there was a thought process I had to go take a picture with her, but when she arrived on the grounds prior to the parade, and I saw all these kids and the volunteers and the kids from Canastota High School running to go over to the museum to try to get their chance at a photo op, I figured by the time I go over there and they bring me up and introduce me, that's going to take 5 minutes, and I would knock off some kid's opportunity. So I didn't get a chance to actually meet her, but I was really glad she made it in because she had a really tight schedule. She had to be whisked off to Europe right after that. We don't have to hear about Paz threatening our buddy Ed Brophy anymore, God willing. So all in all, I thought it was a great weekend. And it went well, and I can enjoy it, Lee, and to the audience more now when I'm done with it than while I'm doing it. It's just like it's like a radio show that starts on that Thursday, with the first lectures and then the opening bell, and then goes to Friday lectures and Friday night activities. We had the fights at Turning Stone, Saturday lectures, and then I'm whisked over to the Banquet of Champions, and then I opened up the ceremony on Sunday, and of course, David Diamante did a great job of helping out, and Mark Carey did a splendid job with the actual induction itself, and then I said bye-bye to everybody, and I look forward to it. It's always my favorite week of the year, but it's one I appreciate more after it is over. And I think what we'll do right now, I'm not going to throw it to a commercial break. I'm just going to take one right here and talk about Dr. Nam
Phan.
Yes, dental implant expert. We talk about, whenever we're doing this commercial, we talk about if you need implants. And the first thing you need to do is go to your dentist or like a Dr. Nam Phan and find out, is that the route to go with implants? Because, there's veneers and crowns and things like that. But if you need implants, I highly recommend Dr. Nam Phan. He's located all over. In fact, he's even in Jersey. I don't know if he's in Newark where I'm going, but he is in New York. He is in Las Vegas. I just like to give a number out each and every week. 702-637-9168. 702-637-9168. Get in touch with Dr. Nam Phan. Schedule an appointment. Let him do the X-ray deal and see where you're at. And if you need implants, he is the one that can do it. Not only the technical aspects of doing it, but also the financial end. And a lot of times it's the financial end of it that will prevent it from happening in the first place, because there are a lot of dentists who simply won't work with you. Dr. Nam Phan will work with you. He has a number of different flexible financial options. 702-637-9168, Dr. Nam Phan. Now, let's go to the final segment, Memories and Moments. 45 years ago, yesterday was
the anniversary of the Brawl in Montreal. It was a highly anticipated fight between reigning WBC welterweight champion Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran, who was former lightweight champion, had a couple fights at welterweight, most notably a victory over Carlos Palomino. And it was a very highly anticipated fight that more than lived up to its billing inside of the ring. I remember exactly where I was the night of the fight. I was at 4-H camp. I was 15 years old. I remember during the campfire at night, I remember looking up at the sky and I remember thinking, what is going on in Montreal right now? And because I didn't have pay-per-view or closed circuit, I didn't actually get to see the fight until nearly a month later when ABC aired the replay. And because I already knew what happened, it took a little bit of the thrill out of the match. But in retrospect, what struck me about this fight was that this was the last time that we would see Manos de Piedra Duran as the ultimate example of machismo, a dominant lightweight champion who carried his animalistic temperament into the ring. And he had advanced ring IQ on top of that. And he forced the reigning welterweight champion of the world to fight his fight. And not only was it Duran at his very best physically, it was Duran at his best psychologically, because even Leonard admitted after the fight that Duran got into his head, you know?
Well, hold that thought. Did he get in Ray Leonard's head? Here's what Ray had to say.
Also, the psychological warfare played a significant role in me choosing to stand toe-to-toe with Duran, because he challenged me. He challenged my manhood.
Did he get into your head a little bit?
Did he get in my head? Come on. He did. He just, gave me all kinds of hand gestures, and, he pushed me. He hit me.
Talk about your wife?
Yeah, he cursed me, cursed my wife, and it just like, and I was always kind of taught that if there's a camera, you smile. And I would smile, and in the meantime, he is insulting me. He insulted my wife. I was so mad. So, I'm not going to just box him. I'm going to beat him in his own game. And that was in my head. It stuck in my head. So throughout the entire fight, until maybe the last 2 rounds, I realized that I had made a mistake of trying to fight him totally.
You see, Lee, obviously, Sugar Ray felt the same way. And Duran, you said it. You said it accurately. He was a blend at his best of tremendous tenacity with just as much technique. And when you got technique and tenacity and tenacity and technique at its best, at its boldest, you had Duran.
Definitely. And I ran some retro stats of the fight years after the fight. And here's what we found. Duran averaged 10 more punches thrown per round than Leonard, 60 to 50. And because he forced Ray into a slugging match, power shots made up 83% of Leonard's total output and 75% of Duran's. That's way above the division average. And for the fight, Duran outlanded Leonard 315 to 273 in total punches and 292 to 232 in power shots. And that's because Duran landed 43% of his hooks, crosses, and uppercuts compared to 37% for Leonard. And if you look at the round-by-round breakdown of total connects, which usually lines up with the official scorecards, Duran led 11 rounds to 4, but there were 6 rounds in which they were separated by 3 or fewer total connects, and Leonard might have won those rounds. Leonard learned 2 critical lessons from this match. One, he had a world-class chin, and second, he was extraordinarily tough. And here's a third lesson. He would beat Duran if he boxed him instead of slugged with him. And that's exactly what he did in their rematch in 1980 and their third fight in 1989.
Yeah, I was sort of that guy right there then. I was still fighting my brilliant professional pugilistic career. I remember my ex-wife and I, Kim went to that fight with me. We watched it on closed circuit, and I think I had already met Duran at the Fifth Street Gym at some point, but I always knew in a way that I would go on and have more experiences with them, and they both became pals, and 2 of my favorite shows that I've done in this Corners. In fact, we're repackaging the Roberto Duran show right now. Sugar Ray Leonard, I had that interesting in-ring experience with myself when I got to say no mas after he nailed me with a left hook. But that was one great fight, and that, I think, and Duran had some, great fights. De Jesus, Kenny Buchanan, and others, Barkley. But I still think that might have been him at his best in that fight 45 years ago yesterday. And I think that's a good way to put a no mas on this show. No more. Let's get out of here. Look forward to heading to Newark, New Jersey, Vito Mielnicki Jr. And as I said earlier, a really packed and stacked fight card. The main event, he takes on Kamil Gardzalik, the unbeaten Polish fighter. Look forward to that. And we'll get back here next week. I don't know exactly what do we have anything planned? I don't think we've planned for next week. I guess we'll recap my Newark journey, and
yes.
I'm sure we'll find somebody to hang out with us. Want to thank Vito Mielnicki Jr. I'll see you, young man, in just a few days. I'll talk to you, Lee, in just a few minutes off here. So long, everybody.